Good guy, that Mike Garafolo. It was Black Monday. That's the day traditionally NFL head coaches are fired after the final day of the regular season. But Mike Garafolo, one of the quietest Black Mondays ever. Only Doug Peterson fired on Monday. Gerard Mayo fired this past Sunday. So that makes 5 coaching vacancies this season. Is that it in your opinion, Mike, or should we be expecting more to come?
I always leave myself open for one possibility. I mean, we got Jeff Fisher one time. We were at the Super Bowl, and Jeff Fisher was let go by the Tennessee Titans, so it can happen a little bit later on. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, it was the Jaguars, which we all expected happening with Doug Peterson getting fired. I'd say the most surprising part, Jay, is that Trent Baalke, the general manager, did not get fired and somehow survived for his 6th head coach to come here, which is pretty incredible. And I do know that it may affect some folks that are up for that job if they have other options and they're looking to hire their own general manager or bring their own general manager with them. That could change things a little bit there, so that could affect that one. But there's only 32 of these jobs, and there will be folks interested in that Jacksonville job. As for New England, Robert Kraft coming out and saying that he felt bad for the situation that he put Gerard Mayo in. Says he pretty much set him up to fail because he wasn't quite ready to take over that job. Look, however you want to phrase it, Robert Kraft deciding that Gerard Mayo was not cut for that job right now. With Mike Vrabel lurking out there, a lot of folks think it's a foregone conclusion, but we'll see because Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, will interview for that job. As for the Giants, I was not surprised that Joe Schoen, the general manager, remained in place. Also not surprised Brian Daboll stuck, but I was certainly more sure that Shane was going to continue as the general manager, and John Mara and Steve Tisch, the co-owners, evaluating these guys separately, but deciding to keep them together. They benefited certainly from the fact that the Giants have had so much turnover recently, just didn't want to go down that road again. If they were maybe earlier in the process, kind of like Joe Judge or Pat Shurmur or Ben McAdoo, perhaps they would have been let go. But the fact that they're at this point now where there has been so much turnover, Mara just wants to see this through. That's what we had kind of been mentioning leading up to this. And certainly a good draft class this year has helped Joe Schoen. As for the Raiders, I kind of mentioned this. I know a lot of folks thought it was a foregone conclusion that they would move on from Antonio Pierce, but I know that Mark Davis has been pleased with how this team has competed. He told Pierce late in the season, go out and win games. Don't worry about draft positioning. He did just that, and they were competitive on Sunday, at least for a half against the Chargers. And then you just saw talent take over. This team just didn't have enough talent this year. I don't know how you could judge Pierce based on that. They've got to get some talent moving forward. He's going to have to improve the record here in 2025, and I know he's going to go back to the way that he was as an interim, where he kind of came in sort of guns a-blazing, right, and didn't care. A brash Antonio Pierce, talking about how he grew up a Raiders fan, NWA, back in Compton, all that stuff. Like, he's going to get a little bit back to that, I believe, and that's why he was wearing that starter jacket during his press conference today. And as for, you mentioned it, Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys, I still expect there to be some negotiations on his contract in earnest before January 14th. That's the cutoff point at which the Cowboys no longer have him under contract and he could interview elsewhere, with the Chicago Bears already requesting permission to interview him, which certainly helps his leverage, right?
Yep.
If you're negotiating with the Cowboys, we already know that there's at least one team out there interested in talking to Mike McCarthy.
So that's the coaching situation. And then we have Tyreek Hill, Mike, who raised a lot of eyebrows on Sunday with these comments, and I quote, "I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here." Is he done with the Miami Dolphins, Mike, or is there a chance the Dolphins can hash things out with Hill and keep him in town?
That's my new phrase, by the way. When I leave a room, it's going to be, I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. Matter of fact, that's maybe how you should end the program tonight. Yeah, look, Tyreek Hill, I remember it just being a couple of years ago when he was shirtless in his living room next to his agents, pleased with the fact that he was traded from the Chiefs to the Dolphins. And, we've seen this before, and I'm gonna use this metaphor only because he has himself by posting the picture of him over Antonio Brown's body when Antonio Brown was waving goodbye while running shirtless through the end zone there at MetLife Stadium. A lot of times, it's great when you get somewhere as a receiver, and in a couple of years, you're like, get me out of here. And that's kind of the process that we're in right now. Canvassing the league, I do believe that a lot of folks think we've seen the best of Tyreek Hill as far as his explosiveness, but they still believe that there's plenty there. Like, when you have that much talent and that much athleticism and that much speed, when you tail off, it's not like you look like Jay Onrait running out there. You're still Tyreek Hill in a sense. So there will be interest in him. I don't think this is going to get patched up. I think he's going to wind up getting his wish and getting traded elsewhere. But it's not going to be South Beach, which I think was the draw in the first place when he left cold Kansas City to go to Miami.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. And you should see me run. I'm very, very, I'm sneaky speedy, Mike.
Gangly?
Yeah, you're very gangly.
Sorry,
I'm quite gangly. You're right. I'm a gangly man. Mike, not every playoff team is heading into the postseason healthy, as you know.
Yeah.
A couple of names I specifically want to ask you about. Zay Flowers of the Ravens. And the big one is probably Jaylen Herz and the Eagles. What's the latest on their availability this coming weekend?
You know, John Harbaugh started with the Zay Flowers by saying it's not a season-ending injury. And it was like, okay, well, that sounds like a week-to-week type thing. And then he used the day-to-day designation. I think it's going to be tough for Zay Flowers to play this week. But if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you got to believe that you can win this game against the Steelers without Zay Flowers. I know it's the playoffs. I know all these games are tough, and you'd like to have everybody play if possible. But in this case, let's get by this game. Let's get him back after. It sounds like it's reasonable that he could conceivably play in the next game if he indeed misses this game for the Ravens. So that's kind of the way that I'm approaching it this week as they get closer to Saturday. As for Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, saying that he remains in the protocol. Do not expect, trust me, I speak Sirianni, do not expect some great updates from him throughout the week. In fact, one time he went on this whole rant when he was asked, I think I may have even asked the question about a player's status after the game on Sunday. And he goes, let me tell you how this is going to go. I say I haven't talked to the trainers yet here. Tomorrow you'll ask me and say, well, he's got to go through the tests and we haven't gotten those results yet. And then on Wednesday you're going to ask me, well, is he going to practice today? And I'll say, you know, I don't really know. We'll see. And then he either practices or he doesn't. And then I don't talk again until Friday. At that point, we'll know his status for the game. So he laid it out one time. It was perfect to talk about how he just never is going to answer injury questions. I will answer it this way. They don't have to take a player out of the protocol until it's time for the game. So they can just keep him in the protocol while he's practicing, and he has to practice to progress through the protocol this week. So he'll continue to lean on that and say, well, he's progressing through the protocol. So he keeps the Packers guessing, and he doesn't have to answer those questions. I believe Jalen Hurts is going to be okay for this game, in large part because even the Cowboys game a couple of weeks ago, I'm told he was on the verge of actually going there and attending the game. But the Eagles have a policy where any player through the concussion protocol, they like to keep them at home. So that's why he stayed home. So he was feeling that good a couple of weeks ago. He's been with the team during walkthroughs as well. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be fine, going to play in this game. Just don't expect Nick Sirianni to tell you that anytime soon.
I love that breakdown. Mike, I'm opening the door.
I'm out, bro.
That's it.
I forgot
That's
it already.
You got it.
See,
You're the best. It's early in 2025, and you still nailed it, buddy.
I'm out, bro.